Добрый день, дорогие.
Good day, dear guests. I'm glad to see all of you here after the lunchtime. I hope that you are pleased with everything that is happening, and I'm happy to see people here. We have a very interesting topic, and we have a very good and relevant speaker, and I think we'll have the opportunity to have questions from the audience. I'll try to have my questions short. So we'll start from our topic, and we'll speak about traditional finances and crypto finances, how they interact. Let us start from Larry Fink, who is head of BlackRock. In 2018, if I'm not mistaken, in April was writing to the shareholders of its company that he considers that Bitcoin is a good means for money laundering and tax evasion. And then in January 2024, BlackRock started ETF. And I mean, you financial people, you know that when there is an asset where we are not sure, you should start ETF. But it was a different case, and Larry Fink is pretty sure in these assets, and now he's translating this confidence to the world. And as if we see that these people are using crypto, then it's high time for us to do it. And today with us we have Nurkhat Kushimov, who is head of Binance Kazakhstan. Nurkhat, what is the right name to say the name of your company, Binance or Binance? Well, everybody's using English language here. I mean, so you can say Binance or Binance. Okay, then we will say that everybody would pronounce the name of your company the way they wish. Okay, there is a specific theory of innovation. It's S type of curve. Initially, we have innovators, then like junior followers, then the other followers, or followers and some others. How would you now describe the crypto finance industry? What is the stage of it? Is it the higher part of that curve or its lower part? I think that we are at the very beginning of the dramatic growth because um, capitalization of crypto assets is quite high, and we shall not and cannot ignore this market anymore. And even the examples that you gave us, it's a very good example that institutional players and market participants cannot ignore and not notice this asset class. Now we see even states stop to show let's say, indifference to it. We see that regulation is being developed. From the very beginning of this industry, in 2009, the regulation was, let's say, at the very beginning, but now we see already some mature mechanisms, and there is a wish to understand and to institutionalize this sector by the state and by the investors, and this level of adoption of crypto industry and cryptocurrencies in a very active phase. With the further adoption, with more players entering this market, the industry will be developing, capitalization will be expanding, will be growing, and we'll see more and more players. In general, institutional investors and large players in this sector give lots of advantage to retail investors. And then we see this dynamic growth. Institutional investor decrease volatility, adding the higher level of trust to this type of tools. They expand our fiat opportunities, storage, and it would engage more retail investors. The more retail investors, the more attraction of some other institutional investors. And right now, I think we are at the lower level of these curves that would go up, and I mean, this is the way all of this would be developed. When liquidity will attract even more liquidity and engage in a bigger number of retail investors would engage institutional investors and vice versa. And anyway, this industry will be developed in this specific way, and we see the potential of the growth, which is very high. Even if we compare with the securities markets, I think this industry would come to this level, the level of the security. You said adoption. You think that there is a phase of refusal has already gone, and now we are this phase of adoption, or understanding this? I would say yes. Of course, not all people, not all countries, not all communities can, let's say, think over it and accept it and adopt it, because each country's person has its own risk appetite. Everybody has its own opportunities. But I think that the peak of this um, denial has already gone. And now we see more knowledge and more expertise with regard to it, and it impacts the following development. Before, there were lots of myths with regard to this industry. So one of the way of using these digital assets, as you mentioned, it was a tax evasion and money laundering. But in fact, it is not like this. The digital assets are even more protected if we speak about different types of crimes. Why? Because here we speak about blockchain technologies, and this is a transparent process, and you always can trace the movement of digital assets, and this is even more safe than just your bag with money. And opportunities to use it for criminal goals are minimal. Of course, we hear different cases. Um, but if we take just statistics, these statistics would tell us that digital assets and actually industry of digital assets, if we compare with the financial market, is used to a lesser extent than if we than these criminal schemes in the traditional finances. So this is just a myth. Then there are different opportunities. We can, freeze assets, and we can return these assets to the owner of these assets. So, I mean, the level of protection is higher when people use digital assets. And now I think this knowledge starts to penetrate to community, people, state bodies, state policy makers now start to understand that, before we kind of didn't accept this industry because we consider it's risky, and we put some, let's say, barriers or some limitation. However, in fact, we should have done the other movement. We see less risks here. And actually, investments risks, payment risks here are less than in traditional financial system. Transparency is 10 times higher than traditional financial sector. So that's why now I see that many players start to understand it, and the adoption is faster. If we formulate the value of this, you have already mentioned, again, clients, transparency, and so on. Well, not only this, there are other different values. Well, first of all, it's convenience, speed, and again, some costs. Yes, many financial players, they always focus on these things. If we speak about stock market, security market, we had before T plus 5, and it was good if you sold security on Monday, and then on Friday you receive your money, and everybody were happy to wait, and it was okay. But then we had T+2. So, 30 years required to go from T+5 to T+2, and now it's like T+1. But blockchain technology is T+0 or 1 second, and it's really convenient. So that's why the value for institutional players, for banks, brokers, is the speed. Today, we use traditional financial infrastructure that is quite outdated, and there is a technology that allows us to make these payments, money transfers in seconds. The tokens could be sent and so on. And it could be done through interbank communication. It could be in a wholesale, international trade. Then let's speak about costs. Why now international payments are not cheap? Because there is a need to support large infrastructure, large number of people that would manage and would support this infrastructure. And of course, the price formation is the specific one. So if all this infrastructure would be replaced with the blockchain technology, then of course price formation of the services or price would be lower. So and this is also a big value of it. And also, as today and yesterday we've already discussed, if we look forward or look ahead, we see that using AI using AI in payment and everything would be on blockchain. Again, I'm not saying that cryptocurrency would be the payment means, but I still think that the um, sovereign feature of national currencies would be preserved, but we will see changes because new technologies and old payment system would have to be coupled somehow. And speaking about infrastructure, we are moving into this direction. We create a big number of tools for institutional players so that their level of adoption will be higher. We have Binance Pay, Binance Link, some custodial solutions, Binance wealth management, fund management, everything that we are doing the following. We take the model of traditional financial institute and we, located it in a blockchain technology. So now, for institutional investors, we suggest painless entrance to this industry. So you have already mentioned some projects, but what other projects would make crypto finances and traditional finances closer? Well, the first is about fiat interaction, because this project resolves lots of challenges related to entrance and exit, because there are two ecosystems, and of course, between these ecosystems, we should have some bridges. These fiat bridges are needed because for everyday needs, people would use fiat money, they would invest in crypto, and we see some movements from time to time. Now we focus on making these processes simple, convenient, and cheap. And one of the projects here is the creation of stable coins. Speaking about national currency, we support all these projects, and for us, they are breakthrough technologies. And all over the world, we see this is happening simultaneously. And but I can say that we are in front in many areas, not behind. Then Crypto City, that's the other project. We develop infrastructure where the cryptocurrency has one more characteristics, and this is the usage. Now cryptocurrency is the means of investment, but we want to make cryptocurrency as a tool for usage. We want to give a very good set of tools for the use of cryptocurrency, and I think this would be a big value for people. And so Binance could be the payment mechanisms. Again, if we do it in Kazakhstan, of course, we'll do it in compliance with the regulations that we have it here, with the sovereign characteristics of national currency and other things.
What kind of initiatives or incentives could speed up this process? Because I think that your clients will be pleased that you could use simpler and cheaper services. Well, the first thing, it is quite obvious one. It is the clear policy and legal framework. People need to feel protected, safe. They shall not be afraid of using cryptocurrency because, as I say, 99.9% of people are not criminals. And it is a really small portion of people who try to use financial systems with any kind of criminal element. Of course, we need to try to combat and eradicate, but average person is honest. Here, it's easy. It's better to give clarity from tax perspectives, from the legal framework, the status, it's the protection as an asset, it's the ownership, it's the protection of personal data. So we need to give a whole set of the judicial protection that is available in financial system. Second, it's the liberalization is necessary, and it is. There must be liberalization and the integration of the crypto industry into the conventional banking system. So, well, to be really honest, for example, I trust my bank more than not my bank. So I guess my financial literacy that comes from this source is more trusted. And crypto assets, in crypto assets, this mechanism is not really utilized, to be really honest. So we need to enhance the institutes of the promotion of financial literacy. Another thing is the safe gateway. If today we are allowing to use cryptocurrencies, why not to use a licensed financial consultant or financial institute that he or she trusts and we could trust? And its safety and protection is actually higher whenever the financial tool like this is used. I think it shall be faster, and I think there's a more likelihood that we will have a boost in development. Well, I have already finalized with the questions. If there are any questions from the audience? Sergey had already mentioned that we need to create conditions so that people wouldn't be afraid of cryptocurrency. 10 years ago, the team of the innovators had been emerged, and it wasn't regulated. And there are many people actually who are in the market, and now they're thinking how they could bring it to the Binance to Kazakhstan, because law says that you cannot really trade in a global perspective. And whenever we work how to do it legally, what we find in Binance Kazakhstan, it's the difference between Binance Kazakhstan and Binance Global. There are no recommendations or guidelines as for the retail investor how to bring the global assets where a person would like to pay taxes. Could you please tell us? There are no articles. No one is actually cannot really address the issue how to do it. Will that be a transfer? Is that the transaction? Is that the? Could you please tell us? Because nowadays, who entered as the innovators? Very good question. Thank you so much for your question. Well, first and foremost, I'd like to extend gratitude for your feedback. We will state in our website the guidelines and what it is necessary to do. If person has the account on Binance Global, he or she can open Binance Kazakhstan. Again, there are technical issues to be addressed. We will give instructions what to do. There shall be additional email using other ways, because it's really easy to conduct KYC using the identification number, and we could use vendors and Kazakhstani system. We receive the consent from you for using personal data, and you, as any classical conventional banking, if you use the application, you will pass the onboarding, video verification. We also have additional steps, several ones. It is the confirmation of the address, because we are under the regulation of the AFC, and you need to answer several questions, and their status of the verification that will need the answering some of the questions and testing in order to identify the competence level. Well, in the application on the website, we had added things for the convenience of our users, because it was actually identified additional need of adding the additional instructions in order to choose what account you're using. You need to go to your account and look at the Binance Kazakhstan. We also created for additional convenience so that it wouldn't really be a barrier for you and wouldn't be an obstacle. And it will just be sort of like a headband and show where you are. Well, global issue, if you allow me to note, within several months, we actively been developing the local platform. And now on local platform, there are more than 350 tokens. If you remember, in the beginning of the year, it was just 100. And now our users in Kazakhstan have, well, more or less the same offers. We also added a whole set of the services. If you remember last year, since we were in the regulatory sandbox, we couldn't really offer this kind of derivative stock exchange. We have also launched the Earn, and we airdrop. well, if you make the staking, you can participate in the distribution of the tokens on futures and options. We also have the operation efficiency where there is an absence of time-bound gap, because on the global platforms there were tokens earlier than we could make it locally. So we have this efficiency. It's second to second, actually. It's accurate to seconds tokens on the platform. Why did we do that? So that our Kazakhstani client could implement whole potential on the day of the stock exchange. And in parallel, we are working with our civil clients. Partially, it deals with the financial literacy. Another thing, it's the content fulfillment, so that we wouldn't have the necessity to use something else. I hope I have answered your question. Is there any other questions? Please. Microphone. I'd like to continue this topic. Will there be any kind of challenges transferring from global to local? Because what will be the tax? How much of the taxes shall we pay? Regarding the wallet, if we want to have on a cold wallet, for example, there shall be a tax for depositing it, and what's going to happen? The tax from the global to local and having the cold wallets. Thank you for your question. I have heard two aspects, the technical ones and another is the tax one. Well, technical is easy. Right after you have an account on local platform Binance Kazakhstan, transferred in ecosystem of Binance, it's easy because you use your ID number. It's not like on the blockchain. It is centralized transaction. It happens within a split of a second. And internal, we don't have the travel rule. We do apply it, but it is really convenient for user. It's user friendly. We know where you transacting and where you extracting it from. So we know the output and input. So travel rule is applied, but is convenient for you. But at the same time, you also have to fill out the questionnaire, and all of the countries have to apply. And you have to implement it within a year. Again, this is about transparency of the digital assets. And of course, you have to pass this additional step. Regarding the taxes, it is really a difficult topic. We actually enlightening our sources for people who make decisions in this sector. Well, to be really honest, the situation is not the best one. I understand why the misconception happened, because in the old tax code, there are two regimes. In January, digital asset was the asset. You had to declare it, and you had to pay taxes for the selling. Well, the same was applicable, same as the asset. So it was treated as any kind of asset. Now, as of 1st July, there's Article 331, which had created the administration regime. It is also asset, but with special conditions, and their model became more complicated. There will be third regime as well in the tax code, and We had already discussed with colleagues from legal affairs. We are going to report for all of the three models. So it's going to be rather complicated. In 2026, we're going to report for 2025 in one model. In 2027, we're going to report in the 2026 a different way. Well, it's going to be quite simple in tax administration. It's going to be simple for our citizens and for us as the representatives of the cryptocurrency. It's not going to be really complicated. We could give you the transaction lists, and you shall be able to identify what kind of taxes you're going to pay, and then you just declare it and submit it to the tax enforcement agencies. Well, there is no a simple question. I would love to give you simple answer, do this and this and that. But there is no simple answer, straightforward answer. Many people are declaring as they can, so they have the general purchase and general sale, and this is how they declare. But in keeping or storing of the crypto assets doesn't actually oblige you to pay taxes. You have to pay taxes only if you sell. So again, you need to look at it individually and try to legitimately lay out. It is trying to work out the simple mechanism. We have time for one more question, please. My name is Bakhchan. I'm advisor of the BRICS President Alliance. So I was on website Binance. It is really difficult to register. How we could be, you could optimize this and make it simple. In Kyrgyzstan, there are also a crypto platform. Russian Federation, of course, conduct operations. They're A7, A5. It's the stablecoin rubles. On Financial Times, there was an article that $3 billion worth deals are transacting there. So what is your opinion regarding this? And third question is the information that we input into your website. Will there be any kind of measures that will be taken in regards to the information that we provide to your website? Is there any consequences? Will there be any kind of punitive measures that could be applied? How do you see the perspective of the development on the territory of Kazakhstan, and what is your vision? Since I'm coordinating in BRICS the matters of crypto assets, I would like to know how safe is that? We are developing the structure, and it'll be interesting to hear your opinion, your perspective, and where the Binance is going. And of course, we know that there's an understanding regarding the regulations between Kyrgyzstan and Kazakhstan, and it had been concluded on the level of the president. You have many questions. All of them are relevant. I think I can lecture you for an hour. Well, the first question. It is really painful to hear that it is really difficult for you to register on Binance. We tried to make it simple for citizens of Kazakhstan using identification number, and it is quite a easy pathway as in banking system. You will receive the short message and short text message, and there are only two stages actually: biometric verification and confirmation of the address. But yeah, we work on eliminating those additional unnecessary steps and try to make this experience concise and precise. It is constant work. If you could give us concrete issues where we could look at, well, improvement of the design and the user-friendly website is something that we try to implement. Another issue, it's regarding the development of Kyrgyzstan. We are tracking and monitoring the development of Kyrgyzstan and Kazakhstan because there had been adopted quite a number of novellas because crypto exchange exists in Kyrgyzstan and potential of development is quite a big one. And I think that regional development is going in quite a good pace. I think the dialogue and cooperation is the only answer. Sometimes we take from them. We shall borrow in Kazakhstan, sometimes ahead on something, and Kyrgyzstan might borrow some of the tricks from us. I think the most important area is.
So here we have two main aspects. First is liberalization and convergence of traditional financial institutions with institutes B3, including Binance. And the second thing is that simplicity and clarity of legislative and regulatory framework. So if we speak about taxes, these taxes should be clear. If it's regulation, it should be clear and understandable for an ordinary person. And again, would it be Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, or other country, this mechanism would work. Speaking about personal data, we have a high level of personal data protection, and we are really serious about it. Any requests that we have, we assess it based on the legality and rationality. If we speak about some criminal proceedings or criminal legislation, everything should be in compliance with criminal and processual code. It should be sanctioned by the authorized bodies. If it's a court, then we should have all the necessary things from court or from the prosecutor's office. So we assess any request for that we receive for legality, and it should be very clear. It should have very clear, substantiated reason. I mean, based on the legislative norm, based on the other things. So if you request from us A, we need to understand who this A is, what role does this A play in your process or proceeding, and so on. And this is the way all financial institutes work, all banks, all brokers, and any request. We check any request. And if we have doubts about the legality of this request, we ask to provide us additional explanations why this request comes to us. So we work with state bodies on personal data, but this work is within the legislative framework. The data that we shall preserve and shall not disclose, we will never disclose them. And if anyone has the right to have access to this data, this request should be validated. I mean, there are no mass requests. There is a specific request for a specific entity or person, and if this request is validated, we would work with it. Of course, you all agree that if it is a crime, let's speak about child pornography. And if some financial institutes are used in this chain, then any financial institute, if there is a suspicion and our suspicions are justified and all the procedures complied with, we have to help in the investigation of this crime. So this is the way we work. And as for some concerns that might be raised, I mean, this is probably the part of black PR. Speaking about some this massive disclose of information or disclosure of information, no, this will never happen. You also touched the issue of the safety of our platform. I would say that we are the safest platform in the world, in crypto world. We are the most protected. We invest a lot in cybersecurity, but people themselves also have to comply with the digital hygiene. I mean, the responsibility lies on both sides. We, on our side, do everything so that to protect our users. Additionally, we have the fund for some critical cases, SAFU, and this fund guarantees some of the losses. For example, in the banks there is a specific legal process of deposit guaranteeing. For Binance, we ourselves implemented this specific mechanism, this specific fund, so as to provide guarantee to people, so that people would feel safe. Well, let us thank our speaker. I hope that it was interesting for you, and I see people here. Okay, maybe you would ask it personally to our speaker. I think these issues are very relevant, and it's about regulation. So maybe next session would be called Crypto Finances Regulation Breach or Block Post. So we'll see you all next year.